The State Farm Knowledge, Skills, Abilities, and Other Attributes Assessment, also known as KSAO, is a rather long and exhausting testing experience. In this video, I'm going to give you a full breakdown of all three test sections, what you can expect of each, and how to best prepare yourself for success. Let's go. Okay, so the KSAO assessment contains around 140 questions across three sections and focuses primarily on your behavior and personality. Through a variety of scenarios and profiling questions, the test is going to measure whether your personality is what State Farm believes is required to succeed as one of their independent agents. The KSAO assessment is the second stage of the State Farm hiring process and follows the SLCP questionnaire. I've made a video about the SLCP as well, so if you have not yet taken this test, make sure to watch it. The first section of the test is the virtual role play, and it is the longest and most complex section of the test. In this section, which may remind you of a quest from the 90s, you will navigate through the first working day as a manager in a small sales agency. You will be presented with short cartoons showing interactions and conflicts with your colleagues, employees, and clients. After each of these cartoons, you will be given 3 to 6 optional responses, and you will have to rate how effective or important they are on a scale of 1 to 7. Your responses to these multiple scenarios will demonstrate how you are likely to handle conflicts, prioritize tasks, and solve problems as a State Farm agent. A few of these scenarios will also require you to take some graphic and numerical data into account. Here's a sample scenario you may encounter during the role play. Later in this video, I'm going to provide a full solution on how to approach the scenario, so stay tuned. The second section is the situational judgment test. The questions here are largely similar to the scenarios presented in the virtual role play, but they are going to be shorter and less complex. Again, check out this example. I will not be solving this particular example in this video, but you can check out the full solution in my KSAO free guide. The link is in the description. The third and last section is the self-report assessment. This questionnaire contains around 100 questions and is identical in structure and formatting to what you've already seen from section 1 of the previous SLCP test. A long list of statements that will repeat themselves in a variety of ways, and you need to rate how well they describe you. Make sure to maintain your focus in this last section, as hard as it may be after the two long and exhausting previous ones. Now, after we've covered all three test sections, let's dive into a couple of KSAO tips. Through the KSAO test, you're going to come across a very large variety of scenarios, anything from winning back a disappointed client to handling gossip among your team members. While most people are likely to respond to these scenarios effectively and reasonably in real life, rating them on a 7-point scale in a computer-based simulation is a completely different thing. That's why it's a good idea to keep in mind the fundamentals of a good response, and to always look at each response through that lens. Qualities like proactivity, drive, accountability, and communication should always be considered when evaluating each response. To exemplify, let's get back to the question I presented earlier. Response A is authoritative, stubborn, and lacks communication skills. It focuses primarily on berating Bruce, so it is likely to get him defensive and bitter rather than promote any positive change. That's why we will want to rate this response in the ineffective range. Responses B and E show that you listen to what Bruce has to say and at the same time turn his criticism into constructive, proactive measures. Response E is even better than response B in that sense, as it may benefit the entire team rather than only Helen. So, in this case, we'll probably want to rate response E at the high range of effectiveness and response B around the mid-high range. Response C is not very effective. It's not as harsh as response A, but still mostly deals with reprimanding Bruce. You pass the buck back to him instead of assuming your role as a manager and providing a resolution to this problem. This response lacks accountability and proactivity, and therefore we'll want to rate it around the mid-low range of effectiveness. Lastly, response D is also a very ineffective response, but for different reasons to those of response A. The scenario specifically mentions how sales being slow is defined as a problem by senior management. Siding with Bruce and putting up with his lower standards comes across as lacking drive, motivation, and commitment to your role as a manager on behalf of some large unknown management. Therefore, this response better be ranked as ineffective. For more examples like this one, check out my full KSAO guide. The link is in the description. As humans, we tend to be obsessed with ranking things. Even though you will be specifically told not to do so by the test instructions, you are likely to constantly face the urge to rank the responses rather than rate them. While it is generally a good idea to compare responses to one another in order to get a feeling of where to rate them across the scale, you should not assume anything about their ranking. Two or more responses can have the exact same rating, and it can definitely be the case that for a given scenario, all responses are effective or ineffective. This tip has two parts. The first deals with the scenarios themselves. You're not going to fail if you rate a response as 3 instead of 4, or even if you rated one response as ineffective while it is actually effective. It's the big picture that matters, and the overall impression that emerges out of your responses. This is why in my KSAO online practice test, I offer a rating method based on a spectrum, and not a single numeric value. This will help you adapt to a mindset of a broader view and better direct you towards a productive learning experience. The second part of this tip deals with the data you'll get as part of the assessment. Throughout the test, you'll get around 8 to 10 graphs that will contain a lot of data. This overload might give you the impression that you're expected to calculate things to the third decimal point or whatever. That is certainly not the case. What you are expected to do is to identify the main trends and insight that emerge from this data and to translate them into decisions and actions. This is not an easy task, but if you find yourself obsessing over calculations, you're probably overdoing this. That's it for today. I hope you found this video helpful and interesting. For more information on the KSAO test, including sample questions, tips, and tailored prep materials, check out my full KSAO test guide. Link down below. Good luck. See you next time.